What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
First weekend of February 2016. It feels like we were just in the holiday crunch, and now we're already launched into the beginning of the year. My name is Josh. I'm with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with the Marketing Maverick, the guy that knows everything about marketing. That is Jason Arcemont. We call him the Marketing Maverick because, well, again, he knows everything there is. Would you say that? Would your wife say that?
My wife would not agree. No, maybe in terms of marketing.
Okay.
It was a great nickname that I picked up some time ago, and I'm going to hang on to that one. I like it. It's fitting. This segment's actually sponsored by our brand marketing firm, Brightbox.
Hey.
And, I think Brightbox kind of speaks for that nickname and fact that we do everything under one roof. And when I say that, I mean it. From strategic brand marketing to all the implementation in web, video, graphic design, 3D animation, video production, public relations, content, you name it. With all of our groups, we have just under 100 employees now. And we cover all aspects of business development, brand marketing in general, advertising. The list goes on.
And we really like to talk about what we do.
Yeah, we're good at that.
That's why we have this show. And it's called The Hook because it's that moment whenever you reel someone in, whenever you are telling about your product or your business and you kind of hook them and you pull them in from that. So it's about branding solutions and business solutions overall. I have to say that we've kicked off this year pretty well. It's been this is what, our 30th or 40th show now, it feels like?
Not even quite, but it does feel like that.
What is this, 16?
16.
Okay. It feels like we've been doing this forever, which is great. We're happy to do this every single week, and we get busier, and it just gives us more to talk about on a weekly basis.
Yeah. You know what I love is just, we'll talk about something on Saturday, and over the week, I'll run into people that listen to the show, and they'll email in, they ask more questions, they thank us for the tips. People are actually starting to implement some of the things that we're talking about, the advice that our guests are giving. Every week we try to bring in a guest that specializes in another form of marketing, and I've just been blown away with it. It's definitely been a lot of fun. I love talking about business. I love connecting people with ideas, and it's been cool.
It's funny, whenever you get together with your friends and you start talking shop, with us, there's not really that person that says, look, leave work at work, because we all love to talk shop.
Yeah.
And it was like that for me in radio for a long time. You talk about radio, talk about the people you know in radio, the people you've worked with, the good programmers, and this, that, and the other. You talk shop. Walton and Johnson, we just found out earlier, because there's still the balloons in here from Tuesday,
right?
That they celebrated their 33rd year on the air together. 33 years, that's crazy. But we like to talk marketing shop. What worked? What did you do? What kind of strategy did you implement? Whenever you did a video or whatever it is.
Yeah, and that kind of shop, it's easy to talk about because it involves, when done well, when marketing done well, it can change lives. I've seen it. We've implemented brands. We've put it to work through positive marketing programs. Revenue has increased. The marketing coordinator gets a raise, gets a promotion, gets advancement within the company. The owner of the company's dreams come true. He's able to travel more, have more time with his kids and his friends, family, whatever. So, I've seen the ripple effect of this. So it's easy for me to get passionate and get worked up. And I'm sure sometimes you guys hear that come across the microphone here. I get a little amped up about this stuff. This is where my heart's at. This is what I love to do. So I couldn't be happier coming in every week and talking with you guys about good old-fashioned marketing.
But enough about us. We want to talk about you. We would love for you to go to our website, thehookradio.com. That's where you find out what we have been talking about. And also the past shows are there. Sign up for our newsletter. There's so much at thehookradio.com for you to take a look at.
Yeah, last week we talked a lot about content writing as a marketing tool. We're going to extend that one more show today. I got a little bit more on how to actually get your book published, how to self-publish your book, kind of a step-by-step.
We had a pre-show meeting, and Jason said, well, this week we're going to kind of wrap up the book series. And I said, we had a book series? I didn't know that we had a book. Okay,
well, you know, I'm a
great.
little ADD, so if we do more than 1 week back-to-back of the same similar topic, I start getting itchy, and I want to do something else. So next week, we got a good show lined up. This week, we're going to talk a little bit more about the actual publishing of your book. So we got Allyson Ward Neal, local author, is going to be in studio with us today, talking with us about that process of how to take, once you've written a book, what do you do with it? You've got it written. Do you have to shop it out? Somebody else going to publish it for you and market it? Or can you actually do it yourself and be successful? I've written a couple books. Both of them have done well in their own right, and probably more done more sales and distribution of those books than I would have thought really possible whenever I first wrote them. The first one was kind of interesting. Your Spot on the Mountain. It's still on Amazon. You can check it out. And this is really a field guide to success. Whenever I was training for my run across Texas, the Texas Freedom Run, I was spending a lot of time running. And kind of, when you run that long, 10, 20 miles a day, you start, kind of getting in your thoughts. And
yeah, you have a lot of time.
You think so?
Yeah, you're thinking a lot, brother.
And, just kind of on accident, I started just collecting my thoughts after my run, things and little life lessons and some sales tips and ways that I was able to leverage money and leverage relationships and networks, and kind of ended up coming up with the story, this formula about everyone's spot on the mountain is different, right? And I think so many of us over-aggressive business people, we get into business and we're just like, man, we're going to the top of the mountain, and we don't ever really stop to consider what the top of the mountain is. And in a lot of cases, that the top of the mountain is, it's icy, it's cold, there's, very thin air up there, it's hard to breathe, there's not a lot of room to run around, there's not a lot of other people up there, it can be lonely at times. And so making sure that when you're setting out in your professional career and you're looking at what does success mean to you, that you're very realistic about where you're trying to go, starting with the lifestyle, with your family, the type of life you want to lead, and then working backwards from there to determine what type of money you need to support that. I've burnt through, really expensive cars and spent a lot of money and thought I felt rewarded for a while. And, I've come to a point in my life now where I understand where my level of success is and where I want to be on that mountain. And I'm much happier. I'm still do quite well for myself, but I'm not worried and burdened with this $20 million a year, revenue that I had whenever I was young, because the reality is I just don't want to put in that type of work to get there. And that's totally fine. I find somewhere just a little bit farther down the mountain that is a nice little sweet spot for me. And so check that book out. If you're like me, you're listening to this show, you'll probably find yourself as an aggressive business owner, somebody in the marketing department. Maybe you're contemplating getting into business for yourself, or you're thinking about it. If you've got any questions about those kind of things, I'm getting emails from you guys every week, but definitely go to thehookradio.com. Shoot me a message. It's a great way to get in touch with me. I answer all those emails. Just feel free to share your story, where you're at, what you're struggling with. You're thinking about leaving your job. You're not sure, should you? How much money should you raise? I'd be more than happy to shoot you an email back, and maybe we can start a conversation about how I can help direct you in the right direction.
Yeah, put you in the right direction more than anything, because with both books that you wrote, even the new book, which you can plug, by the way. I mean, you don't have to just talk about Your Spot on the Mountain.
Right. The other one is the brand map, which has been that one's just doing phenomenally well.
That's something also that you can point anybody to that really needs that push in the right direction, that needs to see exactly what their organization wants.
Yeah, and on a personal level,
achieve.
Kind of like you're saying, too, on a personal level, too. Because it's not, the brand map is again, it's another step-by-step guide. The brand map is a guide to building powerful brands. And I think there's a big misconception that a brand is a product or a business, or, a service. And the reality is, kind of like with, from Steve Jobs, believe it or not, grew this new definition of what a brand was that included people, right? That a person can have a brand to them as well. So think about that. Your personal brand, you're about to go out, you want to conquer your professional world, even if it's the corporate ladder. You have a brand within that organization that you need to build, develop, cultivate, and put to work. So it's a very interesting book. I definitely encourage you guys to go check it out if you haven't yet. Get a copy, read it, shoot me a message. Let me know if you have questions.
That's Jason Arcemont, the Marketing Maverick, and we're going to come back next and talk about the business tip of the day. We'll let's call it the business tip of the week. I mean, you can use it more
That's
than
true.
one day.
That's true.
Let's go ahead
Could
and
be
do
the
that. We'll be right back on The Hook. We're back here on The Hook on Saturday. No football today, but you got a big game tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, are we going to your house for that? Or
Oh, I thought you were flying us out to the game. You didn't. You didn't have tickets? I didn't get that press pass.
I know my spot on the mountain.
I know my spot on the mountain. Yeah,
My name is Josh with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with Jason Arcemont, that is, the marketing maverick. This segment, the business tip of the day, is sponsored by ontoboxtraining.com.
Yeah, OntoBox. I guess you always kind of set that up, and I feel a little flat going into what OntoBox is.
Why?
I don't
is
know.
it because I do such a great job
You do.
of
It
introducing?
feels so powerful, and then I feel like I got to back that up with
Can
something
I give you
amazing.
the monster truck introduction?
There you go.
ontoboxtraining.com.
Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, so OntoBox Training is powerful training for professional people. We started this organization kind of out of demand. Doing very well in my own businesses. I was asked again and again about, hey, how did you train your team? How did you build internal culture? How did you get your sales managers to do better? How did you develop a workflow process? And so through that, we developed some curriculum and several different courses that are all around those types of topics. So it's kind of similar to just doing business consulting, except it's in a more structured environment. So we have courses for, sales management, social media implementation, sales training, sales training 101 for the digital age. We have all different types of things on there. But if you find yourself falling a little short on how to implement things or how to tighten your ship internally, OntoBox Training may be a good place for you to start. Check them out, ontoboxtraining.com.
And on to our business tip of the day, which this is our business tip of the week. Tell us what that is.
Video.
Okay. Why video, though?
Well, so I get a lot of questions about video, and really my answer is always like, are you using video in your marketing? And if not, why not? I mean, the demand for video is growing astronomically. I said this a couple of years ago, and it was growing, and I look back now, and the numbers are staggeringly even more than they were, back in 2014.
And do you think it comes down to content is king?
Content is king, and the ease of content is even more keen, right? Like, especially with the millennials, the younger group, the millennials being probably the 14 to 25-year-olds, they're spending more and more of their time watching online video, right? So the fact or the realization that they're not going to go through your website and read every single page, if you can hit them with a 15, 30-second video and effectively convey what it is you're trying to get to them, you can have them on that hook even quicker.
Oh.
That's what's going to get them to
That
engage.
hook, right?
The hook.
Yeah.
Saturdays at 4.
Thehookradio.com.
Yeah. So that reason is why I push all of our clients, even if you're not targeting millennials. People are becoming more and more effective with watching a video and wanting the information quick, having it fed to them. We're seeing long form original content is soaring in ratings. Like, look at Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Those are all kind of long movies or stories or whatever that they'll post on there. But that's converting down into YouTube. We're seeing more and more time. People are spending more and more time on YouTube as if it's like a TV show. They're subscribing to channels and they're watching it. They're engaging. And then that's trickling down to mobile devices and tablets.
You can watch things live on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize that until probably last year, because they would have the preliminary UFC fights that you can watch live on YouTube.
It's crazy. So people are wanting that type of video connection. And keep in mind that through a lot of video or TV advertising, people are losing that type of advertisement. So they're becoming less and less responsive to old school ads, right? So your videos need to be interesting. They need to tell a story. They need to be either funny or
capture a moment.
There you go.
Because that's an important thing. How many times has someone said, hey, come look at this video?
Mm-hmm.
It happens around the office all the time. For me, it happens at home all the time. My 9-year-old is looking for different things. like how to draw and all these different videos on YouTube, and we make sure that it's the one that's kid friendly. And so he always says, "Dad, come watch this video." Yeah. Always.
Oh, it could be my son does the same
3 or 4 second video. I mean, just something like a Vine, a 7-second video, maybe not 3 or 4 seconds, but a 7-second Vine. Those things are very catchy. They catch on really fast.
Yep.
And so what happens is it becomes viral after that. Now, this happened a couple of weeks ago. The Rod Ryan show had Tito Ortiz come in. And Alex,
I saw this.
Okay, so Alex is the stunt guy. Well, he's part of the morning show. By the time I looked at the video that afternoon, it was on a Friday, and by the time I looked at it that afternoon, it already had 2 million views.
Right.
2 million. That is incredible.
Unbelievable. Right.
And that came from right in this building.
Right.
Right down the station that I'm at.
Right. And here's the interesting thing is a lot of people go, "Oh, man, that's so cool. We need to come up with our own videos." And the mistake that they'll do is they'll try to do a video about their organization, right? Everyone knows that video came from 94.5, right? But they didn't promote 94.5. They did an interesting video that went viral that had a soft 94.5 presentation in it because of who was in the room and the shirts they were wearing or whatever. So a couple tips for those looking to get into doing video. If you're not committed, you should be committed. You need to get into the video space to some extent, whether it's just posting one video a month on YouTube or Vimeo, whatever it is. I recommend both for SEO purposes, which is a whole other conversation. But a couple tips on that. So make a commitment to getting one video per month out, just to start. Like, obviously, you should be doing more than that. Don't even have to worry about the length. Whatever's comfortable to you. If it's a minute, that's great, 30 seconds. You can go to brightboxonline.com. We've started a video library, and they're just very short. Each member of the staff does a quick little tip of the day. Well, I guess it's not tip of the day. It's tip of whenever the video came out.
Yeah, it's
just
really
a quick fact.
It's
right?
ideas that we came up with. One of the things that I talked about was cliche words, or I'm sorry, not cliche words. There are cliches that I can't stand whenever they're used in the workplace, but workplace
like
jargon.
Yeah, and like it's acronyms and
the jargon that we use whenever you're talking about, well, I got my KPM the other day, and the UX or the UI. What's a CTA? A lot of times people have no idea. I get this one all the time whenever I say, well, we're going to look at your SEO. What is SEO? And so now, more than ever, I say, we look at your search engine optimization, which is also known as SEO. And then the client's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now I'm on board. I understand what you're talking about. But if you try to talk over their heads, it gets to be too much, and they don't want to deal with it anymore. They feel like you are trying to be the smartest person in the room. So I talk about that. There are different videos about different things.
Right. So point being, if you just make a commitment to doing some videos, don't overstress out about how good they have to be. Go to brightboxonline.com. You can check out the videos that they're doing. Everyone just has a little fun fact type thing that they're doing just to get in the habit of doing them. But make a commitment to 1 or 2 or however many videos a month you want to do. Sit down with your team, if you've got a kind of a business development team in-house, and write out 6 topics. Just very, very simple. This could take you 6 months into the year. So just 6 good topics that are relevant, tips. They don't have to be about your company. This isn't a sales pitch. So they can be tips of the trade, maybe horror stories of people who don't do things right, or even a story about an interesting person or a staff member that's doing something really interesting on the weekends, or going above and beyond and living this very interesting life that maybe just could be interesting. Maybe it goes viral, maybe it doesn't. So sit down, write out 6 video topics, and then decide the type of production quality that you want. I recommend if you're just starting out, just use your cell phone.
Yeah.
Most cell phones have the quality's good enough to get you going, get in the habit of doing it.
Technology. It's amazing how good the video looks on your phone these days.
And currently, we're seeing a shift, but currently, cell phone quality is going to be fine for social media, kind of general social videos is going to be fine. Now, I will say over the next year or two, as the millennials get older, the demand and expectation of high quality video is going to go up. So get started now in a habit. You can use your cell phone for now if you want, or get you a camera, a mic, wireless mic. It's not a lot of money, and I recommend doing it that way too. But start shooting. Get the topic. Keep it light. Don't script these things out. The more you try to script it, the more you're going to get nervous, and you're going to fumble, and you're going to feel like you got to get it just right. It just needs to be a conversation.
Capture a moment.
Yeah. just a conversation. Best thing to do is have the topic in your mind, walk in front of walk in front of the video camera, and just say, hey, this is so-and-so with my company. I want to share a quick fact with you. This is something I see happen all the time. Boom.
And for our videos, we do it in my office.
Yeah, we have a backdrop, hanging up in Josh's office / our green room.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and as we do these and as we get our system down and kind of become a habit of doing it, I'll step up the quality. I'll invest in better gear and a better room and, lighting and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to prove to myself, and the staff's effort that we're going to be able to get these videos out. So this was our attempt of doing that. Go check it out. You'll see that we're getting some likes. We're starting to get visibility. People are subscribing to our YouTube page. So, I'd say all in all, it's working.
And you can see more at thehookradio.com. Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick there. My name is Josh with Brightbox Brand Marketing. We have our guest coming in next. So you want to say who the guest is?
Allyson Ward Neal, local author.
Cool. Great. We'll have her in just a second. Stick around. You're listening to The Hook.
Every time I think I smell that sweet southern rain, it takes me to
Thanks for spending your Saturday afternoon with us. We are The Hook. It's a show about branding and marketing and overall business sense and personal branding, something we talked about during the break a little bit. My name is Josh with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick, and we have a guest in studio once again.
Once again, we try to do this every week, bring somebody to the studio that can share a little bit about their story, help maybe motivate or inspire us to take some action ourselves in our professional lives, as well as give us some tips. And, we were talking about books and writing over the past couple weeks, and so our guest today is an accomplished author and a communication specialist, Allyson Ward Neal. Allyson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited. I think this is a wonderful thing you guys are doing for our profession and helping everyone to stay on top of branding and marketing and personal branding in particular.
It's a big task, but we got broad shoulders. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I put that all on Jason's shoulders. I'm just here to look good.
Well, we love the topic, and it makes it easy to do this show. We were talking about that earlier, so I thank you and commend you for taking the time out of your schedule to come in and talk with us and share with our listeners about what you've been doing. And we got kind of some tips that you can help us out with here later on. But maybe first off, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself as an author and a communication specialist.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I started self-publishing in 2001, and I wrote 2 community history books about a small community called Algiers, which is on the west bank of New Orleans. And then from there, I started publishing my children's books, which are called the Ava books, and they're available on Amazon. And I was inspired by my daughter. I was pregnant at the time, and I really wanted to write a book in her honor. And so I started with Ava the Angel first, and then I started writing a series, and the other books kind of evolved from there. So I'm at the 5th book in my series.
Wow.
And she's 6 years old, so I write a book every year, so it's annually. And I've also made a commitment to grow into the children's literature area. So as she gets into chapter book age and then preteen, kind of young adult literature, I'm going to grow and stretch myself and write some books in that genre as well.
So keep it relevant for your child.
For my daughter,
yeah,
exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
I like that. So where can people connect with you? Where can they find your books? Is it all on Amazon is kind of the hub for you? Or?
Yes, Amazon is the hub for me. I have an author's page, and it's under Allyson Ward Neal. And then you can also search Ava Books or Allyson Neal, however you want to do it, on Amazon, and it'll pull up the books.
And your name is not spelled like Allyson, like
Wonderland.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it's spelled with a Y, so it's Allyson. So
correct.
Yes, thank you so much for that clarification.
Yeah,
yes,
because I did a Google search for you earlier.
Thank you.
And that'll be the main thing. We get emails, at the end of every show, and it's always something about, hey, how do you spell the guest's name? Or they're trying to find them. So it's good.
Yes,
good job,
that
Josh.
was awesome. Yes.
Well, I love these books, and you've also got a couple books on kind of business principles too, right?
Yes, I do. As a communicator, I formerly worked worked for Chevron in their corporate communications department.
Wow.
And so I started doing public speaking in 2008 at some conferences for organizations like the International Association of Business Communicators. And so I just felt like, okay, I need to write a book, because most of the speakers that I admired, they all had publications to kind of solidify what they were saying and sharing with others in their workshops. And so I launched on that path to start that process. And I think I started my first ebook in 2013. And I went the ebook route so that it would be cost effective. So I only sell them for $5, and also easy for professionals to use on electronic devices like iPads and cell phones, so that they can use the books as references and also quickly either download it onto their laptops and be able to grab some of the foundational principles and create marketing plans or annual communications plans, or even pop some of it into a PowerPoint as they start planning their activities.
Yeah, and I noticed one of the books that caught my eye, being a marketing guy, is called How to Create Great Websites, a step-by-step guide to proven results.
Yes.
That sounds pretty powerful.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Let's get a copy of that.
Yes, it is. And I would say proven results because of my experiences with working with Chevron. And also during my tenure there, they sent me to school to become certified in website usability.
Ah, okay.
So everything that I learned in web usability, I applied it to every website that we designed in the company.
Wow.
And we pretty much did everything from a global perspective. And so using those principles definitely yielded the results that we were looking for.
Wow.
So whenever we started out, we had a goal to increase visitor usage to those websites, increase the design and the appeal of the website. And we did see tangible results because we were able to measure everything. So we measured before we started the redesign, and then we measured after, and we also polled a lot of our users, and we definitely improved the usage, the effectiveness, the usability, and the look and feel of those websites based on those principles.
So boom, yeah. Proven book. I like that.
Yes.
So, I'm sure our listeners are hearing, it's kind of interesting. So you've got books that are maybe more in line with your passion with the Ava line, right?
Yes.
And then you've got kind of these professional books that support your professional, kind of you're saying like your brand credibility. So I know a lot of people kind of get hesitate in starting because they feel like maybe they're not a writer. Have you always been a writer, or is this something that was kind of new for you that you challenged yourself with? Or
Yes, I have always been a writer. I was writing at a very young age. I started with journaling. Because by nature, now I'm public speaking and I'm a communications professional. But when I was younger, I was very reserved and I was quiet and I didn't talk. So my mother was concerned because I didn't communicate. And so she encouraged me to start journaling to just make sure, I guess, get a gauge that everything was okay and I wasn't just
so you can go back
internalizing.
And read it.
Yeah.
Sure. You weren't getting some dark thoughts
I was doing good.
Yeah.
And so from the journaling, I just caught the bug. And I majored in print journalism in college, and I worked for a couple of newspapers starting out. So I've always been a writer, and I've always wanted to write books. But I would say if you don't want to go through that full process, but you have the passion, with technology, there are so many ways to dictate your information. So a lot of great writers never really penned their books; they dictated them.
So like Dragon or something like that.
Yeah, you can use a
tool I've
Dragon,
heard of before.
or you can use on your mobile phone. There's a microphone feature with your notepad, or on your iPad, or on your laptop. There are always these microphone features where you can talk into it. You can definitely use that. I use that for that full series of those professional books. I dictated the whole thing.
Wow.
Because I was so busy, when you have a full-time job.
So you're writing a book while you're driving around.
Yes.
Man, no excuses, people.
It's really,
but
it's so convenient to dictate because once you have a family and then you work full-time, it's hard to just sit at the computer and type. And so I use the dictation software, and then I just went back and edited everything to clean it up and polish it. And then you could always hire an editor. Some of them charge like by the word or by the hour, and you could hire a professional editor to clean it up. But I would say in this age of technology, use the power of dictation to get your books created.
Do you think that's probably, or what do you think is probably the hardest part? Well, actually, before that, I want to say, what a wise advice from your mother to have you start journaling at a young age. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I might have to challenge a couple of my kids.
Yes, if they don't communicate well, if you can't get
I've got a quieter
if you have
one.
to drag it out of them, that helps.
Interesting. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good idea. So what do you think is the most difficult part about getting started, though? Because it seems like whenever I talk to people about the books that I've written, it seems like the majority of people are like, oh, I always wanted to write a book, or I always had this idea. Like, have you kind of narrowed down, like, what it is that's the most difficult to get started, or maybe like an initial hurdle that you can help them with?
Time is the biggest thing. It's just when you're busy and you have a packed schedule of commitments, you feel overwhelmed and you feel like a book is such a daunting task and you just don't have time. So I would say take it in small pieces. What I always do is I develop the book title and then I do an outline first. So I just create an outline of all the chapters and then just take it one chapter at a time. And with dictation, you can just set aside maybe an hour a day and focus on that chapter and just talk it out. It's a lot easier to talk it out because when you're typing, you really are doing a lot of editing and you're formulating. And so you want to type it so it sounds right. So you're losing time when you type. But when you talk more fluidly. And so you can get more information out when you talk. And then you can always go back and clean it up.
That's so true.
Do you feel like you lose content too whenever you're typing and not
you
talking?
You could, yes, because you're thinking in the sense of it has to be right. It's kind of like going to school. You know how our teachers are like, when you type your page, your book report, make sure it's grammatically correct. So you still have your English teacher hovering over you when you type because you're thinking, oh no, that's not good subject verb agreement, or I didn't do that well. So, but when you're speaking and you're more relaxed and you know that I'm drafting it out, you're not really concerned about putting the commas and the colons and the run-on sentences. You're just spewing it out. So you get more, and you're absolutely right. You could be self-editing some content out when you start typing.
That's really interesting. You know, I have to say it took me a while, but, you know, now I've got several different books that I'm kind of working on, and I do find it really kind of just crazy. Like, you can sit down. If you schedule just 30 minutes a day, you'd be surprised at how much content you can get on paper in just 30 minutes.
Yes.
You know, especially if you already kind of have an idea or a topic. I mean, if you have a passion of writing, you probably already have ideas in the back of your mind. And if you take 30 minutes, you're disciplined enough to take that 30 minutes, that stuff starts flooding forward.
Yes.
And you'll find yourself just typing, and all of a sudden, like an hour and a half's gone by, and you're like, oh, well, that half hour wasn't so bad, was it?
You finished that. Yeah, you're right. And exactly what you said, that discipline of setting aside that time every day definitely helps. And for me, and for certain projects, I've even gone as far as creating a cover for the book before it's complete. And I post the cover in my office at home so that I can see the cover and I know this book will be complete no matter what.
Oh, that's cool.
Because
I like
the cover kind of lets you know it is a real book.
Yeah, kind of your own motivation.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So what are the plans? So moving forward, you're going to try to start maybe moving into chapter books, or she's not quite that old yet?
Not yet, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still going to do some more picture books.
Okay.
So we have one planned for Ava Lillian Travels the Globe because we want her to be exposed to more countries and more cultures.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, and with Houston being one of the largest multi-ethnic cities.
Cultural hub, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're very excited about highlighting that. And it's something that I've always wanted to do anyway. It's like write a book where all cultures could be highlighted and all children can, have fun with this book. So we're excited about having her do that, and we'll keep going with the series from there. And we do want to add like a male character to it at some point because it's focused on girls, and so people have been saying, we need to give something to the boys. So that's also in the future, is to have a male principal character.
Yeah, that's cool. And I think it's important to note that these are faith-based, faith-friendly books.
Yes,
you know?
faith-based, family-friendly.
Yeah, I love that. I think so many times people are afraid to put that out there, but every time I've seen somebody do it confidently, the book or the piece or whatever they're working on just does even better. So congratulations for doing that.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you think whenever you move into the chapter books, you're going to keep with the Ava series, or do you think you'll kind of move into something else?
I'm going to move into something. I actually
Okay.
wrote a manuscript that I shopped around, but I haven't gotten any feel on it. But it's a chapter book, and it has a boy as a principal character, and it's sort of like a detective story. And
right.
I really enjoyed writing that book because I'm really a good fan of like those detective type of stories where you have to find and solve a mystery.
Encyclopedia Brown.
Yes.
Love those.
So
Yeah.
that's where I'm leaning toward. And, of course, he has friends and they all get together to solve the mystery. So I think that's where I'll go when I get to the chapter books for sure.
That's cool. Well, awesome. Well, our guest in studio today is Allyson Warden Neal. You're hearing her talk about her books. You can check out on Amazon. That's Allyson, Allyson.
Correct.
When we come back from a break, we're going to talk a little bit about how she's been able to self-publish so many books over the years and give you some steps to help lower the barrier for you so that you're a little more confident in doing it. It's been an awesome tool for me. It sounds like it's been an awesome tool for her, and we look forward to chatting a little bit more when we get back.
Fantastic. We're coming right back on The Hook. We should probably start having our conversations off air on the air because
we do have great stuff. Huh?
We get a lot covered. My name is Josh with Brightbox, along with Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick and host of The Hook, the show that hooks you in. Hopefully you're hooked in. We've got some great guests every single week. And what's cool is that there's so many different backgrounds that come into this, but all for the same purpose. It's about marketing and branding.
Yeah, about promoting your business, making your dreams come true, creating opportunity for advancement. And our guest today is going to help us unravel the crazy world of self-publishing. Her name is Allyson Warden Neal. If you missed the first segment, you can go back and check it out on the podcast at thehookradio.com. We're talking about her books. You can also see those at amazon.com. Allyson Warden Neal, Allyson.
Why?
Why? Because that's how you spell it. Yeah. So Allyson Warden Neal. Allyson, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to give our listeners kind of a roadmap, and I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but you've done a good job of kind of self-publishing, and I've been down that path. I don't know if I did the best job of it. I had to do a lot of bumps in the road as I figured it out. But
too.
maybe we can give a little roadmap to our listeners who maybe have something started or already written, and they're just not sure. Do they shop it out or do they do it themselves? And
Yes.
yeah, I'd love to see if maybe you can just give us in the right direction here.
Definitely. I would say do both if you
Okay.
can, if you're able to shop it out and self-publish, because you never know. I will say it's harder now to get a traditional book deal than it's ever been before in the history of publishing.
Wow.
Because books are on the shelf, very difficult to sell. It's a competitive industry, and a lot of the bookstores are just not surviving. So it's difficult to really get the foot traffic with people coming into a store. And a lot of people buy their books now on Amazon, so they're having them shipped directly to their home, and we're losing the browsing exercise of purchasing a book.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to a bookstore and you're not browsing and shopping, you're basically directly purchasing what you want. You're like a selective purchaser of that product. So I would say do both. With the mindset that it's going to be, it may take a little longer and it'll be difficult to get that traditional book deal. So I wouldn't want to discourage anyone from doing it, but I think you want to do both, and you definitely want to put a lot of effort into self-publishing, because while you wait to get that big book deal, you could have already had a few books out there selling
maybe showing them that, hey, look, I've got the chops, I've got
and
schedule going.
Exactly. And I think that carries a lot of weight as well when getting traditional publishers to take a look at you. If you have books you've already published, you've demonstrated that you have a following,
Right.
you have a market, you've sold books, and you have people that are interested in your content, it makes you a more marketable candidate to secure a full-time deal.
Yeah, I know several people in the marketing space who have written books that have that were published by a publishing house, and when I've talked to them, they're like, "Oh man, this started out self-published, and it used to be you had to buy thousands of copies, of your book, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how easy it is now. But man, after selling so many copies and kind of getting a following, the publishing company came to me.
Yes.
It's like, man, I like that.
Yes.
Kind of do the legwork yourself and promote it. And
you do. You have to do the legwork. Your publishing company will want to see that. They will want to see what work you've put in, how many people you have on social media, face-to-face engagements with speaking opportunities. You have your radio show. So I think doing those things makes you more attractive, and the publishers will come to you, and vice versa. When you approach them, they'll find your credentials to be extremely impressive if you've been doing those things.
Right. So I know still a lot of our listeners are probably thinking like I thought, that if you write your book, then you got to go to print house and they print thousands of copies. It costs you thousands of dollars, and you got boxes of your own book laying around. So that's not the case anymore.
Not anymore, but I did go through that.
Did
when
you?
I first,
Okay.
Yes, published.
Oh, man.
I published, like I said, in 2001, and so
Okay.
I did go to an on-demand printing company in New York, and they shipped me supply, and I had a distributor in Louisiana who had relationships with a bunch of bookstores, and he would order my copies and pay me. So those were kind of the days of the traditional way. But with Amazon and other online retailers selling books, shipping them directly to you, it got easier. But then that whole book distributor relationship, it got smaller and smaller because distributors had less stores to put your books into. So I would say, yes, it's a lot easier from a digital standpoint to actually go through the process of, once your manuscript is complete, you can go online and upload your manuscript. And some services have templates for book layouts and templates for book covers and things that will get you on a great path. And then with Amazon's Kindle, you can publish a full ebook without any overhead at all.
Wow.
And basically you're just collecting royalties off of your book sales, and you don't have to pay for any printing costs. But with the print side of it, you would just go through the whole process of uploading your manuscript, your cover, make sure everything is in alignment, and then do the on-demand printing process through a retailer like Amazon, so that when people order the book, it's just printed on demand as they request it.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal. I'm not promoting, they're not a sponsor of the show, but Amazon Prime is where I went through, and I think there's other platforms that you can kind of upload and get it ready. But I mean, you literally, like you said, you pick out the size book you want, what kind of cover you want, upload a Word document, it kind of formats it, you get an on-screen preview, and then for a few bucks, they send you a copy of it. Then you get to check out the hard copy, right? I'm trying to remember now. It's been a little while.
Yeah, that's right. You get your proof.
Yeah.
And you can edit your proof, make any necessary changes, and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think for less than $50, I had, had a couple copies of hard proof and approved the version to be printed. And then they tell you, based on the size of your book, how much it's going to cost you every time somebody orders it, right? And then you get to determine your price point.
Yeah, you can determine, and it's all calculated and, like you said, recommended for you. And it's worldwide. I'm doing my taxes right now, and I've gotten my statements from sales that I've generated from all over the world, and I know it's because of Amazon, because just having to promote and have that type of international reach, it would be difficult without a vehicle like that. So,
oh man, it's unbelievable. And so it's kind of like a dual thing. Like it's so, it's kind of sad that the bookstores are diminishing, and you can't have that browse effect. Because I used to find the best books by going to a certain section, and then looking through them on. You don't get that effect online.
Yes,
but
definitely.
It makes it more accessible for people like us to get our stuff published, to get it out there, and then you got to be a little savvy to promote yourself and market yourself. But that's what we're here for.
Then it makes you think when you get that statement, who's that one person in Kazakhstan?
That's what I was thinking.
Kazakhstan. We have Ava fan over there.
Yes, I'm thinking, wow, who bought this book from Sweden or what have you? So you kind of
that's cool. Yeah, that's too cool.
Wondering, but hey, it's definitely a step in the right direction. That's for sure.
Absolutely. It's interesting. So. And I meant to ask you this earlier. So as an author, do you kind of develop the story first, or do you think of the audience first?
I think with the professional communications books, I definitely think of the audience.
Okay.
Because I want it to be impactful. I want it to be useful and valuable for professionals to be able to advance their careers and also do creative things in the industry. With the Ava books, the story always generates everything. I think about what would be fun. And also, now that Ava's, talking and into all her stuff, I ask her as well.
That's cool.
I'll draft up a manuscript and I'll run it by her. And then when the illustrations come, I'll have her take a look at it and she'll add some things, input like, oh, she needs to do this, or Mom, she needs to have a friend, and I listen to her because she's a kid. So I think moving forward, I'll probably be collaborating with her a lot more on the children's books. So because I want the target audience to be happy and satisfied. I'm always gauging her impression of what's going on with the children's books.
So kind of back to the publishing. So we've talked a little bit about get to Amazon Prime, how easy it is to upload your stuff. They'll help you with the pricing, the cost. There's really hardly, I'd say little to no real out of pocket. I mean, a few bucks here and there. If you don't have that, shoot me an email. We need to figure something else out for you. How do you handle the writing? I know some people, they get frustrated maybe with like the editing or the proofing part. Do you recommend hiring somebody?
I do.
Or maybe just partnering with other writers? Or what's been the best way for you to do that?
I recommend doing a professional editor, especially if it's a large publication. It's very difficult to edit your own work. It's just because you've been writing it and you've been editing it, you've looked at it for so long, you're going to miss something. You'll miss a typo, something very simple. So having a second set of eyes on it is critical. And you can either partner with other writers. I use a website called Elance. It's like freelance, but Elance.
Okay.
And that's where I can find just communications professionals like writers and editors.
Cool.
And they charge nominal fees. I've also had friends who are writers they'll charge me by the word to edit a piece. But there's a lot of value in having a second set of eyes to edit your material. Because it's definitely like two different jobs. And if you've written the publication, it's harder for you because what you do is you start to memorize some of it as you're reading it. You've already written it, so you know what it's supposed to say.
Yeah.
So you're going to miss that critical word.
Yeah. That's so
you
true.
You fill
though.
it in, and your
It's
brain,
so true.
your brain will fill in what's missing.
Yep.
So you need someone else to look at it to make sure they actually see that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that if you have an idea for something and you want to own a space in the market, a position in the market as an authority, and you're not a writer, that's okay. There's folks out there that can help ghostwrite, they can help you edit, they can help you proof and finalize and polish your writing. Don't be intimidated by the fact that you aren't a writer yet. I know a lot of the guests that we've brought in have been writers to begin with, but guys, it's a really important and intricate step in getting started. These are some great tips. Allyson, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I know our listeners have got some good little nuggets they can take back and apply to their books and what they're doing. Always check in at thehookradio.com.
Yeah, if you ever miss any of our episodes or you miss maybe part of this episode, you can find it on thehookradio.com, and please be part of our newsletter. We'd love to talk to you.
Subscribe.
Send us an email to thehookradio.com. We'll see you again next week.
Does it